In 2001, Ozark, Missouri was a quiet, tight-knit town. High school football mattered, church on Sunday mattered, and Price Cutter Park was supposed to be a symbol of growth, a place for community events, baseball, and family entertainment. But one night, that changed. For people that didn't grow up here, it's hard to explain just how out of place a band like Slipknot was in Ozark, Missouri, and especially in 2001. This was a small town, conservative, family-oriented, a place where major concerts just didn't happen, and especially not metal shows, and definitely not this kind of metal show. Price Cutter Park was still relatively new at the time. Built in 1999, it wasn't built for chaos. It was built for baseball games, community gatherings, and local pride. And then there was Slipknot. In 2001, Slipknot wasn't just a band, they were a phenomenon. Mass aggression, explicit lyrics, stage antics that shocked even seasoned concertgoers. Even me, with my limited knowledge of music outside of the early 2000s country that my parents listened to in the car, I knew Slipknot from this game called MTX Moto Tracks, and I thought, wow, these guys are next level. This is completely different from anything that I've ever listened to before. And if you knew Slipknot, you knew exactly what show this was going to be. And if you didn't know Slipknot, unfortunately, you were about to find out the hard way. When Slipknot played Price Cutter Park, it wasn't just loud, it was overwhelming. Thousands of fans poured into a town that wasn't prepared for them. The language, the imagery, the energy. For a lot of locals, this wasn't just rock music. It was obscene, it was frightening. It felt like something had invaded their town. Stories spread fast about crowd behavior, about damage, about things people wish they hadn't have seen, none of which, from my research, seemed to be true. Every article I can find about it just has news outlets complaining about cursing between songs and vulgar lyrics, something that, if you know Slipknot, you shouldn't be surprised by, and the people that chose Slipknot to come play at this concert also shouldn't have been surprised by. Whether every story was true or exaggerated, it almost didn't matter. The town's perception was already damaged at that point. After the concert, the backlash came quickly. Parents were angry, probably local church leaders spoke out. Longtime residents were questioning why something like this was ever allowed to happen in the first place. And suddenly, Price Cutter Park wasn't seen as a community asset anymore. It was more of a liability. And from that moment on, there was a shift, a sense that the park had crossed a line it couldn't uncross. Price Cutter Park has only ever held 4 concerts that I can find record of. Slipknot, which was in June 2001, Poison, which was in August of 2001, and then you skip 6 years to Dierks Bentley, the country music star, in August of 2007, and then another 3 years to the Charlie Daniels Band in July of 2010. Now, if you ask me, that's a huge shift in the type of music. Although it kind of makes sense, country would be way more accepted in this small town than music like, well, Now, I want to be clear, I'm not saying that the Slipknot concert single-handedly destroyed Price Cutter Park, but I do believe that it played a role. After that night, there was hesitation, fear, a reluctance to book major events. Sponsors pulled back, the community trust was shaken, and once that trust is gone, it's incredibly hard to rebuild. In my opinion, that concert marked the moment that Price Cutter Park stopped being a symbol of promise and started being remembered for controversy. To be fair, Slipknot fans will tell you that it was an incredible show, and I've watched the video that I found of this particular show, and they're right, it was an absolutely incredible show. But this isn't about blaming the band. Slipknot does what Slipknot does. This is about what happens when two worlds collide, a band built on chaos and a town built on tradition. Before any of this controversy, Price Cutter Park had a purpose. It was home to the Ozark Mountain Ducks, the only professional baseball team in the area at the time. For local fans, this wasn't just minor league baseball, it was our baseball. Families came out, kids met players, the park had an identity. For years, if you wanted professional baseball anywhere near Ozark, this was it. There was no alternative. And that's why Price Cutter Park mattered to so many people. But once the Slipknot concert happened, I feel like the momentum began to shift. The park's reputation changed and its future became uncertain right at the worst possible time, because in 2005 everything changed again. The Springfield Cardinals arrived just a short drive away, less than 30 minutes away, in Springfield, Missouri, just north of Ozark. And suddenly Ozark no longer had the region's only professional baseball team. Fans now had a newer stadium, a major league affiliation, and a much more polished experience. And in my opinion, that cemented the downfall of Price Cutter Park. Once the Ozark Mountain Ducks were gone, the park lost its anchor tenant, and once Springfield was in the picture, there was no coming back. The Slipknot concert, again, didn't kill Price Cutter Park by itself, but it damaged the park's reputation at a critical moment before Ozark faced its biggest competition yet. And when Springfield got their professional baseball, Price Cutter Park needed community support more than ever, and it just wasn't there anymore. The Ozark Mountain Ducks once made this park special, but between controversy, lost trust, and of course the arrival of the Springfield Cardinals, which I personally believe was the biggest catalyst to us losing professional baseball in Ozark, it just faded into the background. History isn't always one big event. Sometimes it's a series of small moments that add up. And in my view, the Slipknot concert was the moment that clock started ticking. If you were there at the concert or at any of the Ducks games, I'd love to hear your memories. As someone who grew up in Ozark, Missouri, going to these games and has seen this park completely empty for years until recently when it was finally purchased and renovated into the new Ozark Mountain Sports Complex, it still saddens me to think of what might have been. So please, let me know in the comments if you have any stories about the Ducks, the concert, or anything to do with Price Cutter Park. I'll do my best to respond to every comment that I get, and until next time, my name is Landon. Thank you so much for watching. This is my first big project on this channel. As you can tell, I'm kind of new. My audio is probably not the best. My dog's shaking his little butt in the background. But I would love to hear your feedback. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe. Tell your mom you love her. And, of course, I'll see you next time.